Thank you so much for being here today. I am really excited to talk to you. I know it is coming up on event season and you are probably getting ready for that. So today we're going to look at some very high level tactics for putting together effective event registration pages and processes and some elements that you can add to those pages to make them really compelling. So before we get started, I'm going to do a quick introduction. My name is Abby, and I am part of the team here at Neon One. I've been in the nonprofit tech industry for a little over 11 years now, which is wild to say, and I am really interested in understanding what people actually want from the nonprofits they support and what they are looking for when they're doing things like filling out forms for making donations or signing up for events. So before we get started, I want to ask you a question. So I want you to drop in the chat how comfortable you are with building event registration pages that give your community a really great registration experience. So on a scale from the I have no idea what I'm doing dog to I know more than you and I don't actually need to be here today, how do you feel? And drop your answer in the chat. This is always one of my favorite things because I get to feel out kind of where everyone is. No idea, no idea. I've never done this before. Somewhere in between. Okay, great. You guys are all over the place. We're going to cover some beginner tactics. So we're going to look at some high level things that you can do. Regardless of where you fall on that scale, this is a handy checklist that either you or someone at your organization may find helpful. I'm going to drop this in the chat too. Copy that, put it in here. Okay, so this is also going to be available to you tomorrow. We're going to send a follow-up email. I'm going to send you a link to the recording, and this will be on that same page. So if you've never done this before, if you're a volunteer and you're just getting started, if you are planning your first event, this will be helpful for you. If you're super experienced, this can just be a great gut check because I plan all kinds of online events like this webinar, and I make some mistakes as I'm doing it. So I also have a checklist very similar to this. Okay, so one question that you may have if you've never done this before is when I'm creating an event registration page, does the experience actually matter? Aren't people who want to go to my event just going to sign up anyway, regardless of the registration process? And the answer, unfortunately, is no, not necessarily. Now, as a matter of fact, when I did a little research into this, I found that around 12.5% of people who land on an event registration page actually go on to register. Now, that percentage may be a little different for you. That percentage is not for nonprofits specifically. That registration percentage is for all events. So yours may be a little higher, especially if you've got a really engaged community. It also may be a little higher if you have done a really great job marketing your event, if people know what it is and know what they're getting into and are excited about what you've been planning. So yours may be higher than this, but what this does tell us is that a lot of people who land on event registration pages aren't actually ready to go about signing up. So, oh, Zoom just did something very weird. So hope that didn't show up on your end. Okay, so not everyone who lands on your event registration page knows about your event. They may not have yet decided to attend. And even someone who has decided to get involved, has decided to attend, they may be looking for some more information. People who land on your event page are going to be looking to understand what to expect, what's involved, whether they want to show up or not. Oh, thank you, Jonathan, for the reassurance that you guys didn't see that weird blip that Zoom just did. So people who are going to land on your page are looking for information. They may have decided to attend. They may not yet have decided to attend. If you give them a great experience on your form, on your page, they are going to have a positive impression of your event. They're going to be more likely to want to attend and want to participate. If they are buying tickets to a workshop, or if they're signing up for your gala and the process is clunky or confusing, they may choose not to engage at all. So today we're going to cover some basic steps you can take to give people a good experience and to set a positive tone for future interactions, including the ones you have with them at your event. So the first thing you want to do is use your event registration page to get people excited about the event that you're planning. And while you're doing that, you want to combine practical elements like details about when and where your event is taking place, and maybe some information around what people can expect. We'll get into that in a minute. With copy that makes your event sound like something the people who are looking at your page absolutely do not want to miss. So here's some ways this can look. So, and this is an event I created. These two screenshots are a snapshot of the event that I, as a nonprofit event organizer, am going to put on my website. So this here, right here, this little snippet is where this will show up on my events page. And then this will actually be like my full event registration page. You'll notice because of the bobbing arrows that I have included some key elements here. In both places, the date, time, and location are all immediately visible. So you don't have to try to suss that out. We know exactly when, where, and at what time this is happening. On the event registration page itself, there's even a map I can look at to get an idea of where exactly the event is taking place. And I can hear you thinking, Abby, isn't this kind of obvious? And the answer is yes. But you would be amazed at how easy it is to forget these details. I nearly did it myself. I wrote the event registration page copy for this session and I forgot to add the date and time of this session. I had to go back and add it because someone on my team pointed out that no one who landed on that page would know when this event was taking place. So it's very easy to forget because it is so obvious. And that is why I am emphasizing this here. It's why it's on the checklist that I just shared with you. Double check or have someone else double check that this is included because it's very easy to forget. I do it all the time. Another thing you want to do is use your event registration page to help people understand what they should expect when they participate in your event. You don't have to go into super minute detail here. You don't have to share a detailed agenda or schedule if you don't want to, but you should try to give people enough information that they can make an educated decision about whether or not your event is right for them. This is an example. So in this instance, I've set up a tour. It's a Florida native plant tour. I'm an avid hiker, which is why I've chosen this. But what I've added, I've told people in the copy that it's a 3-mile hike. And I've let them know that there is a catered lunch available. So we'll see that in the tickets, but I've told them that it's a hike. They're going to see some plants. It's a guided hike, and there's going to be lunch provided. Now, if you hate walking, you're probably not going to sign up to attend this. If you hate walking and I hadn't included this information in my event in details, and you show up and I tell you that this isn't just a cute tour through a garden, this is a 3-mile hike, you're probably going to be really irritated with me. And you're going to be, if I'm staff, I'm going to have to refund your ticket and it's going to be a thing. So give people some information about what they will experience at your event. If you're having a gathering, are you going to have just hors d'oeuvres? Are they going to be light hors d'oeuvres or heavy hors d'oeuvres? Are you going to have a full dinner? If you're hosting a class, are you going to provide the materials? Do students need to bring their own? If you're having an event, is it going to be indoors or outdoors? If it's outdoors and it's hot, I live in Florida, so this is top of mind for me. Are you going to have cooling stations available? So these kinds of details can be worked into copy in a way that is engaging, but in a way that sets expectations and lets people make the decision that's right for them. So let people know what to expect. And as you are writing that copy and setting expectations, it's really easy to create copy that just reads like a series of bullet points. And that's better than nothing. We would rather have just bullet points than nothing. But I would encourage you to add a little flair to your copy to get people really excited about your event and what they're going to experience. And then if you can, based on the system you're using, add an image or two to really drive home how special your event is going to be. So your goal here is to present event details in a way that gets people to experience a little bit of FOMO. They really don't want to miss out after reading this copy. So here's my example. In my plant tour, I talk about the fact that we're having this hike during peak wildflower season. I mentioned that the 3-mile hike is going to include hundreds of blooms. The picture I chose reiterates that messaging. So I'm sharing event details here, but I'm also using colorful enough language that people are kind of getting a feel for how exciting this is going to be. They're not going to want to miss out on hiking during peak wildflower season. Okay, here's an example of something different. If you're running a gala, something like a wildflower tour may not be that exciting to you. This is using another system. This is using Neon One's legacy event system. So this looks totally different. This looks very different, but from this page, all of the elements are here. Someone can see pricing options. There's copy that helps them understand what my gala includes. They can tell it's a conservation focused evening. It's taking place on the beach. There will be drinks and dancing. There's copy around what the dinner is going to be like. And there is language there that includes or that mentions that there's going to be an auction and some programming too. So I'm seeing a couple of questions in the chat. Are you planning to go over how to create events with registration links and donation forms, how to tie this all together? Are we talking about capturing custom data like age, race, gender, etc.? Are we talking about legacy or next generation events? So two things. So one, I'm showing examples from Neon One. So this is an example of a legacy event. This is an example of a next generation event. But the goal here, because there are a lot of people here who are attending that are not Neon One clients, all of these tactics are meant to be applicable to everyone, regardless of the system that you're using. So there may be ways to capture all these things based on the system that you're using. If you're using Neon's legacy events, you may do some of these tactics differently. If you're using next gen events, you may be using some of these tactics differently. But the goal is not to go into necessarily the nitty gritty on setting these up in Neon CRM. The goal is just to give some high level tactics that you can use to make a compelling event page, regardless of the system you're using. So let's focus on the high level tactics, and I will drop some comments kind of at the end that points you to support documentation and examples that you can use for your events if you are a Neon One user. Okay. So having all of these elements on your page, regardless of the system you're using, Neon CRM or something else, will make people more excited about registering for your event. So your next job, once you've gotten them excited about registering, is to make sure that registering is very easy to do. And that's really important. A frustrating or confusing registration process can give people a bad impression about your event, and it may even deter them from registering altogether. So that said, as you are building out your registration process, again, regardless of the system you're using, here are some steps you can take to make sure that signing up is really easy. So if you are running a series of events, and we know that a lot of people do this, if you are running a series of workshops or a series of classes, or if you have multiple locations, if you are a chapter-based organization, maybe an AFP, and you have multiple different meeting spots, it's important that you make it easy for someone to identify the session they want to attend or the date they want to attend and sign up for that desired time. This may or may not apply to the event you are currently working on. This is something that frequently comes up for organizations that run classes, especially if they're membership-based organizations. This is something that you may or may not want to do. So if you do have multiple ticket options, so you've helped them choose the right date, you've helped them choose the right location, some people also have multiple ticket options. So in this case, I've built out a wildflower bouquet workshop. I have 2 ticket options available. Make sure those ticket options are clearly labeled and make sure it's very easy for someone to understand which ticket option is right for them. When you do this, two things will happen. You'll make their registration process smoother, and then you will save yourself some work because you won't have to deal with refunding people's registrations or updating them manually or handling those edits. So make sure if you have multiple ticket options available, you're very clear about what they are and what they include. Another thing that we see is very popular. A lot of people really like using promo codes. So if you create promo codes that you send out to your community, you want to make sure that it's very easy for people to understand where to enter those promo codes. These codes are fantastic tools. You can send them to different groups of people. Volunteers are a great option if you want to incentivize volunteering. That's really handy. If you have a membership program, you may have, as part of a membership perk package, you may have discounts on events. That's a really great use case for a promo code. You can send them to monthly donors. There are all kinds of ways that you can use them. But even the most compelling promo code is useless if someone cannot figure out how to use it. So this is an example. This actually happened to me the other day. I had a coupon code for an online retailer. I went to their website. I went to go make my purchase, but they made it so difficult for me to enter my coupon code that I left without making my purchase at all. So if you are a membership organization, your members get 25% off events. They get their promo code, but they don't know where to enter it in the registration process. They're not going to attend. They won't sign up. So you don't want that to happen. Make sure people understand how to use the promo codes you give them. Now, some of you may or may not be using printed tickets. If you are using printed tickets for an event, an important part of the registration process is telling people how they can retrieve those tickets. So make it easy if you are using tickets to save and print and retrieve those tickets. This gives people a great experience, but again, it's good for you too. Checking in your ticketed guests will be much easier if you and your staff and your volunteers don't have to manually hunt through your registration looking for them. All right, Alan, well, I'll say this too, and I'll show you an example of this in a minute. If you are asking for additional information and that information is necessary for your event to go off without a hitch, you can generally use custom fields to collect that information, again, regardless of the system that you're using. All of the examples here that I'm showing you are from Neon systems, but these best practices are applicable to everyone regardless of what you're using. As a general rule, though, again, regardless of the system you're using, your form conversion rates, the rate at which people actually complete the registration process, will be highest if you ask as few additional questions as possible. Asking a ton of extra questions during the registration process can turn people off from attending. So here's an example of the kind of information you may actually need to collect. So I am going to have food at my gala. I need to know if any of my guests have food allergies or other dietary restrictions. So I've included a space for them to tell me about that. This is an excellent example of the kind of information that you might absolutely have to collect during a registration process. Examples of information you might want but not necessarily need include things like, how did you hear about this event? What other kinds of events would you be interested in attending? So when you are creating your form, when you're putting together questions to ask your registrants, focus on keeping it to the absolute minimum. If you are interested in collecting other information, you can always follow up with your registrants after they sign up, or you can follow up with them at the event itself. You can also send post-event surveys if you want more details. All right, so again, there are a lot of Neon One users in here who are asking very specific questions about the step-by-step processes for doing some of these things. And I will point you to some resources at the end. I'll drop some links in the chat, but this is for everyone. So if you're not using Neon CRM, this is applicable to you too. So just to recap, here are some highlights for best practices for event registration forms. You want to collect any necessary information, but you don't want to include more fields than you need. You can allow additional donations if it's appropriate for the event, but you shouldn't require people to make a donation during the registration process. You can create promo codes for different groups of people. It's a really great retention tactic. It's really useful if you're a membership organization, but you don't want to make those promo codes very long or difficult to remember, and you do want to make them very easy to use. All right, so this all sounds great. Again, high level tactics. The next step that you want to do, it sounds like it's kind of after the registration process, but part of the registration experience is how you follow up with the people who have signed up for your events. So you can get the most out of your event by sending maybe 4 different kinds of communications and choosing which ones may be best for you. So you'll want to send a confirmation email. This is something that, again, regardless of the system you're using, you should be able to configure very easily. You set up your event and then you set up the confirmation email that goes out after someone registers for your event. This is an example of what that might look like. This again comes from the Neon CRM system. This is our next generation event. I have gotten my follow-up email. I have the opportunity to view my receipt and view my tickets. You can also send reminder emails. So in this instance, I am choosing to send out an automated reminder 2 days before my event. If you are using a different system, what you can do instead is download your list of event registrants, add it to your email list, create a special email list for them, and then use that list to send out reminders if you can't automate them this way. Another step that you may want to do is send out important updates through email and text. I will say if you decide to use text messages, you want to be very choosy about when and how you send event reminders and updates. Text messages have really great open rates. They're much higher than email. However, if you are sending an update and it's not really necessary, or if you're over communicating via text, people will unsubscribe from you very quickly. So this is an example of an email, or not an email. This is an example of a text message that I am going to send out. There is a poor weather outlook. So I'm sending a text message to my event registrants saying, hey, we're going to be meeting at the picnic shelter instead of outside. Please bring a raincoat. So you might want to consider doing this. This is, again, text messages are best for very urgent, timely messages. Emails are probably more appropriate for general updates. We also may want to send post-event emails. Again, this is going to, the tactic that you agree, or the tactic that you use is going to change based on the system that you're using. In this instance, again, this is a screenshot from Neon CRM, but this is applicable to you regardless of what you're using. I have pulled together a list of people who registered for my gala. I am sending them a post-gala email, and because I have done this, I am able to send a very targeted email only to people who attended. Now, here are some general best practices for communicating with people. You do want to communicate. You don't want to over communicate. If you have ever signed up for I don't know, text message updates or something, and you're getting a text message 2 or 3 times a day, you know how irritating it can be to be over communicated with. So don't overdo your communications. Make sure you follow up. Feel free to send a reminder or 2, but don't spam your event registrants with too much messaging. That means if you really have a very timely update, a change in venue, a change in weather, the parking situation has changed, those are excellent candidates for updates, but you don't just want to send those messages for the heck of it. After your event, you do want to thank your registrants. You may even want to specifically thank people who registered and attended versus registered and did not attend. But when this has happened to me recently, which is why I included this here, don't send a thask. If you have heard the word thask, it is when you are including an ask in your thank you, and it makes your thank you come off as rather insincere. So as you're thanking your event registrants after the event, focus on thanking them, communicating their impact, reliving how wonderful your event was. Do not ask them to make us another gift. And then when you have a list of people who have registered for your event, use that list to send targeted invitations to future events you think they may find fun. But do not only send that list communications about events and events only, especially because the people on that list are probably engaging with you in other ways. You want to make sure that they receive information that lets them know that you personally recognize that they signed up and participated in your event, but you don't want to make them feel pigeonholed as only someone in your system that attends events. Now, I have been keeping an eye on the chat and you all have been talking a lot. So I am going to put this up here and then I'm going to answer some questions. So a lot of you are using Neon CRM and you have very specific questions about how to apply these tactics in Neon CRM. I am going to leave this up here for a moment. So I was going to invite you all to Generosity Exchange. It is our annual conference. It's all virtual. And if you are a Neon CRM user and you would like to attend some sessions that are very targeted toward you and not as focused on high level tactics as today's session are, we are going to have a whole host of sessions that are focused on Neon CRM. So I'm going to leave this up here. I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to drop some resources for you in the chat that you can use if you are looking for information specifically about how to use Neon CRM and its events modules. All right. Okay. I'm going to drop in here. So I'm dropping in here. This is a general link. This is a link to support.neon1.com. This is where you can go to look up everything. So as I was building these slides, I also was learning the events modules as I built this and getting a refresher on some of these best practices. I extensively use this documentation to help me build these events. So I'm going to drop a note in here. This is specifically about creating legacy events. Let's see. I'm going to pull, oh, here's a good one for you all. Here is an article that explains the differences between legacy and next generation events. That will, I know I saw some questions from you all about like when to use which system. That will be helpful for you. And then let me find next generation events. Oh, here. Here is some documentation for next generation events specifically. Now, okay, I see some specific questions that will apply to everyone regardless of the system they're using. So I see one around promo codes. So Ashlyn, good. I saw a lot of comments from people who thought this would be a how-to for setting up pages. I'm glad that that this was okay, that we focused on best practices more than specific how-tos. And what I'll do, if you are a Neon events user, I will let my team know that there is demand for the very specific how-to processes. But if you joined this session knowing that it was going to be a high-level best practices session, thank you for being here. And I hope this was helpful for you too. And I wanted to answer a question that I got about promo codes. So it kind of alluded to there being promo codes that take the whole thing, make it free, promo codes that kind of do different things. So generally, and I've seen this in every kind of event system, including Neon CRM, and I've also used event systems from other platforms. There is usually have two options when you're setting up a promo code. You usually have the ability to set a defined amount off, so $5 off your registration. There's also usually the opportunity to set a percentage off. So if you are creating a promo code, you may want to have, for example, $5 off your registration if you sign up before a specific date. Do that. If you are a membership organization, just as an example, my art museum does this. If you're a member, you get 20% off any of your events. What you can do is you can create a specific promo code that is a percentage off instead of a flat fee. Other options may be, and this is something that we see more, people do it a few different ways. If you want to have a promo code where you just, it's 100% off. I did this actually with an event recently. I was a speaker at this event, so they gave me a promo code that was 100% off. You can do that. You may also be able to, depending on the system that you're using, be able to set up a package that is a $0 package, but make it hidden and just send people a direct link to that. Jeanette also added, this is a great point, Jeanette. There is Neon One Academy. If you are looking, if I saw that some of you are Neon One users, I have never done this before. I'm going to drop a link to Neon One Academy because there are classes or courses on how to do a lot of these things. So it includes the best practices, but it does also include some specific tactics that is applicable to everybody. Okay, I hope you all got those links. Let me scroll back through. Oh, I saw a question that was talking about, and this will be the last one I do, I think. Okay, so questions about how to text registrants. If you are using Neon CRM, you will be able to log into your account, look at the dashboard, and we have the ability now to send text messages. I will look for a support article for that too and drop that in there. Boop. If you are using a different system and you are looking for a way to text your attendees, you probably are going to need to use a kind of system that lets you send mass text messages, unless you are willing to copy and paste your text message on your personal phone to everybody who's registered. What you can do if you're using Neon CRM, you can turn that on. If you're using a different system, you will have to manage that differently. Here is a key point. If you're going to text message your event registrants, please make sure that they opt into receiving text messages from you when you ask for their phone number. The reason I say that is because, again, regardless of the system you're using, if you start texting people willy-nilly without them knowing that you're going to do so, it will feel very spammy. This actually happened to me recently. I made a recurring donation to a nonprofit that I love. I gave them my phone number. I didn't necessarily opt into receiving texts, and I was very startled when I got my first one. So let people know, one, that they're opting in. And then if you really want to give them an even better experience, let them know why you want their phone number and what kind of text you would send them. So even something simple as saying like, yes, I'd like to receive event updates checkbox. That can be much more effective and a much better experience for people than just asking for their phone number and sending them a surprise text message. Okay, two things. If you attended this event, you're not using Neon CRM, thank you so much for being here. I hope these tactics, albeit high-level ones, are helpful for you as you build out your next event registration page. If you are here and you are a Neon CRM client, I have dropped a bunch of links in the chat that talk about the differences between next-gen events and legacy events, links to support documentation for texting. I will let my team know that people are looking for this kind of information. I am so sorry that I wasn't able to go in as deep a detail as you would like. I'll let my team know that you're looking for this kind of information. I will make sure that you receive support documentation in the follow-up email. I will go change that email right now to include those links. And thank you all for being here with me. I know that these high-level tactics may sound very simple, but these very simple best practices can make a really big impression on your event registrants and the way they experience your event. I will send you an email tomorrow morning. It is currently scheduled for 10. I'm going to go add some links to it, and I will talk to you very soon. Thank you all so much.